In the stillness of the desert night, a sudden flare of light tore through the sky. 1, then 10, then 100. It was not the dawn, but something far more volatile. In just 1 hour, the air above the Middle East was ignited with fire and steel as Iran launched a coordinated storm of 100 missiles towards Israeli positions. What followed was a chilling revelation. Tehran's military had reportedly downed 10 Israeli aircraft in a single wave, an act that, if true, would mark one of the most decisive aerial engagements in modern warfare. This is not just a story of bombs and aircraft. It is a portrait of escalation, painted in warheads and vapor trails. For years, the two nations have danced a perilous dance across borders and ideologies. But this strike, this second strike, signifies something altogether different. It is a demonstration of power, of planning, of political resolve, refined through decades of conflict and isolation. As the missiles flew, each one told a story. Some soared toward radar stations. Others targeted airfields, bunkers, and what Iran described as strategic military nodes. The sheer velocity and volume overwhelmed early warning systems and tested Israel's famed Iron Dome to its very limit. While the world watched through satellite feeds and breaking headlines, the calculus of power in the region shifted, subtly but unmistakably. Amid the smoke and destruction, questions hang heavily in the air. Was this retaliation for past provocations, or a signal of preemption? Was it aimed at deterrence, or was it an overture to something far greater? In warfare, clarity is rare, but intentions echo through actions. As dawn rises over scorched runways and silenced radars, the desert remembers everything, and in the stillness after the storm, we are left with a chilling truth. The balance of power is not a constant but a tide, and tonight it has turned. You said, the rapid escalation of the Iran-Israel conflict has entered a new and dangerous phase, marked by Tehran's claimed launch of 100 missiles in just 1 hour. This staggering volume and speed of firepower signify a strategic departure from traditional tit-for-tat exchanges to something far more intense and calculated. Unlike previous skirmishes where single targets or specific objectives were selected, this response reflects a premeditated saturation strike, one designed to overwhelm defense systems and deliver a clear message of deterrence. Iran's second strike suggests not just retaliation, but an evolving doctrine, rooted in swift, overwhelming responses aimed at achieving psychological, political, and military objectives simultaneously. It signals that Tehran is no longer interested in playing a reactive role. Instead, it aims to reset the rules of engagement. This shift is underscored by the timing and orchestration of the strike. Launching such a large number of missiles within a single hour requires significant logistical preparation, intelligence coordination, and technological capability. It demonstrates that Iran is now leveraging the full spectrum of its missile arsenal, from ballistic and cruise missiles to potentially drone swarms, to project power across the region. The operational tempo also hints at a new level of readiness within Iran's Revolutionary Guard and air defense networks, suggesting that the state has made substantial advancements in command and control efficiency. From a geopolitical perspective, this escalation is deeply significant. It sends a ripple through the already unstable Middle East, putting pressure on regional players and drawing the attention of global powers. The sheer scale of the strike challenges Israeli air superiority and reveals potential vulnerabilities in its early warning and missile interception systems. Moreover, such an action raises the stakes for future responses, as both sides are now locked in a cycle where each retaliation must exceed the last in scale and symbolism. The international community cannot ignore the implications of such a high-intensity exchange. Diplomatic back-channels may be activated, but the rapid pace of escalation makes containment more difficult with each passing hour. This confrontation moves beyond mere regional friction. It reflects a broader clash of ideologies and power structures in the Middle East. Iran's assertiveness, particularly in this second strike, introduces a volatile element into an already fragile geopolitical landscape with unpredictable consequences for peace, security, and the global balance of power. Tehran's claim of shooting down 10 Israeli aircraft during its second strike represents a potentially historic development in modern aerial warfare and introduces critical questions about the reliability and evolution of Iran's military capabilities. If verified, this would constitute one of the most significant single-day losses for the Israeli Air Force in recent memory. The sheer scale of the destruction, especially in such a compressed time frame, suggests either an extraordinary improvement in Iran's air defense systems or a calculated exaggeration aimed at psychological warfare and regional messaging. This scenario forces observers to grapple with the dual realities of modern conflict: the physical battlefield and the informational domain, where perception can be as powerful as reality. The number 10 aircraft downed carries immense symbolic and strategic weight. Israel's Air Force has long been considered among the most advanced in the world, relying on precision technology, rigorous training, and superior intelligence to dominate regional airspace. If such a loss truly occurred, it would represent not just a tactical failure but a strategic rupture in Israel's assumed aerial dominance. It could reflect vulnerabilities in aircraft approach patterns, intelligence blind spots, or even underestimated technological advancements by Iran in surface-to-air missile (SAM) systems, electronic warfare, and drone-assisted targeting. On the other hand, the absence of independent confirmation opens the door to skepticism. In the fog of war, especially in conflicts laden with propaganda and political signaling, such claims must be scrutinized carefully. Iran's announcement serves more than just a military purpose. It is designed to shape international perception, rally domestic morale, and assert deterrence against future Israeli operations. In regional politics, perception often becomes a tool of strategy, and such bold declarations can tilt the balance of deterrence even without full factual support. Even if the number is exaggerated, the implication is clear. Iran is claiming the ability to significantly damage Israeli air power, and that alone introduces a new level of strategic complexity. Israel, in turn, must now consider the risk-reward balance of future sorties and air operations, especially deep strikes, whether through real success or skillful narrative construction. Iran's assertion of downing 10 aircraft disrupts conventional assumptions and injects a new level of caution into Israeli planning. The psychological impact of this claim reverberates beyond military circles, influencing diplomatic calculations, media narratives, and public opinion across the region and beyond. The deployment of drone and missile technology by Iran during this second strike reflects a transformative shift in modern warfare across the Middle East, Where once conventional armies and fighter jets defined regional power, today it is increasingly the precision, mobility and adaptability of drones and missiles that dominate the battlefield. Iran's strategy of launching 100 missiles in just 1 hour, possibly including cruise missiles and loitering munitions, showcases an ability to engage in rapid, high-volume attacks designed to penetrate even the most sophisticated defense systems. This method mirrors strategies seen in hybrid warfare, blending state power with decentralized, fast-moving and cost-efficient technologies that can overwhelm traditional military assets. Iran has spent the last 2 decades quietly building a domestic military-industrial base, capable of producing advanced missile systems and unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. These tools are not only cheaper than conventional jets and tanks, but also offer plausible deniability, precise targeting capabilities, and long-range reach without exposing pilots to risk. With swarming tactics and real-time guidance systems, drones have become a vital part of Iran's tactical doctrine. By coordinating drone strikes with missile salvos, Iran can disorient enemy radar systems, stretch their defensive coverage, and create multiple points of failure in even well-guarded installations. The sophistication of this technology is no longer theoretical, it is being demonstrated in active theaters. The scale and speed of this latest strike indicate careful planning and a seamless integration of surveillance data, missile launch platforms, and unmanned systems. Such coordination requires advanced command and control infrastructure, a clear chain of command, and a real-time battlefield awareness that many underestimated Iran could achieve. This also reflects lessons learned from previous proxy wars, where Iranian-designed drones were tested in countries like Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, before being refined for state-level operations. This growing reliance on technology also changes the risk dynamics for Israel and its allies. Traditional deterrents such as air dominance and superior missile shields are being increasingly tested by the affordability and sheer volume of incoming threats. Even with highly effective interception systems like Iron Dome and David's Sling, a saturation strike with dozens of simultaneously launched drones and missiles can exploit gaps and reaction delay. Iran's evolving arsenal not only levels the playing field, but introduces a new tempo to conflict, faster, more unpredictable, and far more difficult to contain once initiated. Iran's public claim of launching 100 missiles and downing 10 Israeli aircraft is not solely a battlefield development. It is a deliberate act of strategic messaging aimed at a variety of audiences, each with different stakes in the outcome. The announcement is as much about shaping perception as it is about military. By delivering this message with clarity and confidence, Iran sends a calculated signal to its adversaries, allies, and domestic population that it possesses both the capacity and the resolve to strike decisively when provoked. The precision of the language, the timing of the disclosure, and the scope of the claim together form a communication strategy as sophisticated as the military strike itself. To Israel, the message is direct and aggressive. Continued air incursions, covert sabotage, or attacks on Iranian assets will be met with massive retaliation, no longer limited to proxy responses or low-scale engagements. It seeks to raise the cost of Israeli action and inject caution into its decision-making process. For neighboring countries, especially those aligned with or sympathetic to Iran, such as Syria and parts of Iraq and Lebanon, the strike projects strength and restores a sense of Iranian centrality in the region's geopolitical landscape. It reinforces Iran's position not as a reactive power, but as a capable actor willing to define the terms of engagement. For the domestic audience, this claim serves an equally important purpose. At a time of internal pressures, economic challenges, political dissent and international sanctions, Iran's leadership needs symbols of resilience and defiance. A bold military action framed as a victory against a long-standing enemy serves to galvanize public support, distract from domestic hardships, and reinforce nationalistic sentiment. The Iranian government understands the power of narrative in maintaining internal stability, and this announcement plays a crucial role in that effort. On the global stage, the message is designed to complicate the diplomatic calculations of Western powers. It warns that Iran will not remain passive in the face of containment strategies or covert hostilities. The scale and confidence of the announcement are meant to reset assumptions and force a re-evaluation of Iran's capabilities. This kind of messaging also preempts international criticism by positioning Iran as a nation acting in defense rather than aggression. The statement is both a deterrent and a declaration, signaling to all parties involved that the stakes have now been dramatically raised, and Iran is no longer constrained by the old rules of engagement. The scale of Iran's second strike places immediate and complex pressure on the United States and its Western allies, forcing a re-evaluation of their strategic posture in the Middle East. The launch of 100 missiles within a single hour and the claim of downing 10 Israeli aircraft cannot be ignored in Washington, London or Brussels, as these developments have the potential to shift the balance of power in a region already teetering on the edge of broader confrontation. For the US in particular, the implications are profound. As Israel's closest military partner and strategic ally, America faces an implicit challenge: remain passive and risk appearing weak or uncommitted, or escalate involvement and risk deepening another unpredictable conflict in the region. Neither option is politically or militarily simple. American forces in the region are now at heightened alert, not just in support of Israel, but in defense of their own bases, ships and personnel. Iranian missile capabilities, especially those capable of precision, long-range strikes, pose a real threat to US installations in Iraq, the Gulf, and potentially beyond. Western diplomats are likely scrambling to prevent further escalation, but the speed and magnitude of Iran's actions complicate those efforts. Diplomacy depends on time and measured response. But missile barrages that unfold in a single hour leave little room for de-escalation before damage is done. There is also a strategic messaging war unfolding, one that directly affects Western narratives. If Iran's claims are even partially accurate, it suggests a closing gap in the technological and strategic advantages long held by US-backed forces in the region. It may force policymakers to reconsider both their assumptions about Iranian military capabilities and the effectiveness of current containment strategies such as sanctions, isolation, and proxy disruption. Western military planners must now prepare for the possibility that Iran is no longer merely a defensive power reacting to threats, but is evolving into an assertive regional force, capable of launching complex, coordinated attacks at scale. The domestic political consequences in Western capitals are equally significant. Public and congressional pressure may mount to either support Israel more robustly or to urge restraint to avoid another prolonged Middle Eastern entanglement. Allies in NATO and other coalitions must now consider how to respond collectively if the conflict spreads. Iran's second strike does not just provoke a military reaction, it destabilizes. The delicate balance of diplomatic, strategic and political commitments that have defined Western policy in the region for decades. The nature of Iran's second strike raises a critical question that shapes how the world interprets the event. Was this a preemptive strike intended to disrupt an imminent Israeli operation, or was it a retaliatory action in response to previous aggression? The answer holds significant consequences, not only for legal and diplomatic frameworks, but also for the perception of legitimacy in international affairs. If the strike was preemptive, it indicates that Iran had access to credible intelligence suggesting an impending threat from Israeli forces, and chose to act decisively to neutralize it before it could materialize. This approach aligns with the doctrine of anticipatory self-defense, a controversial but occasionally justified strategy under international law, particularly when the threat is considered immediate and unavoidable. Alternatively, if this action was retaliatory, it signifies that Iran is no longer willing to absorb attacks or provocations without delivering an overwhelming response. In that case, the second strike can be interpreted as an assertion of deterrence, aimed at demonstrating that further violations of its sovereignty or assaults on its interests, whether in Syria, Lebanon, or within Iran itself, will trigger full-scale retaliation. This retaliatory framing transforms Iran from a reactive actor into a strategic enforcer, reshaping how it is perceived by regional rivals and international observers. This ambiguity serves Iran's interests in multiple ways. By blurring the line between preemptive and retaliatory action, Iran retains flexibility in how it justifies its military behavior to various audiences. To domestic supporters, the strike can be portrayed as a bold act of self-preservation and strength. To sympathetic regional actors, it becomes a stance of resistance against what they may see as Western or Zionist aggression. To the global community, the narrative can be adjusted depending on the diplomatic setting, either emphasizing self-defense under threat or retaliation for violations of sovereignty. This dual narrative also complicates the international response. It places the burden of proof on Iran's adversaries to show that the strike was unjustified, while giving Iran a plausible defense that resonates in institutions such as the United Nations. The difficulty in determining intent allows Iran to operate in a legal and moral grey zone, which in turn makes any unified international condemnation more difficult to achieve. Whether preemptive or retaliatory, the strategic effect is the same. Iran has redefined the threshold for its engagement and warned that the cost of challenging it has increased dramatically. As we stand at a pivotal moment in Middle Eastern history. Iran's second strike marks not just a military maneuver, but a resounding statement to the world. The launch of 100 missiles in a single hour and the claimed downing of 10 Israeli aircraft reflects a new chapter in regional conflict, one where precision technology, rapid response, and strategic messaging are as influential as the weapons themselves. This event underscores a decisive shift in doctrine, where Iran is no longer confined to defensive posturing, but now operates as a bold and proactive actor on the geopolitical stage. Whether the strike was preemptive or retaliatory, its impact resonates across borders, reshaping alliances, threatening escalation, and demanding urgent recalibration from global powers. For Israel, it presents new tactical and strategic challenges. For the West, it triggers deep questions about intervention, deterrence, and the future of stability in the region. And for Iran, it signals a rise in confidence, capability, and conviction. In the desert's silence after the strike, one truth remains clear. The old balance has shifted, and a new reality is emerging. Volatile, uncertain, and profoundly consequential. This is not just a moment of conflict. It is a defining episode in the evolving story of global power, resistance, and resilience. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this vital analysis. May your pursuit of truth always be guided by clarity, courage, and wisdom. Stay informed, stay aware, and may peace always remain the ultimate goal. Good luck, and thank you.